Hi everyone. Last week, I'm sure you've heard by now, a Russian plane was shot down over Syria, and it was shot down by Syrian air defence systems. Now, although Syrian air defence systems shot it down, Russia have blamed Israel for it. And the reason is Israel only gave Russian air defence or Russian authorities 60 seconds warning of this attack that they made on what they called was an Iranian Hezbollah target within Syria. They only gave them 60 seconds warning of it, and it wasn't enough time for this Russian plane to get out the way. So when Syria retaliated and tried to shoot the plane down, they couldn't tell which was friend or foe, because the S-200 systems, Russian S-200, can't actually differentiate between friend and foe. So they're saying Israel is to blame, and to be quite honest, I agree with them. There were also rumours that Israel only did this attack in retaliation to an S-400 being launched by Russia a few minutes before. Israel are a law unto themselves in the Middle East. They do what the bloody hell they like, let's face it. So whenever something like this happens, I automatically think, yeah, it's probably Israel that was to blame. So I am a bit biased on that, I'm afraid. As a result, this is from Al Jazeera, Russia to send S-300 missile defence systems to Syria. Now, this is a big deal. So let me just read a bit of this article just to explain why. It says, Moscow will bolster Syria's air defence system following a downing of a Russian plane last week by sending a modern S-300 system to the Syrian army within 2 weeks, Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu said. In a televised statement on Monday, Shoigu said the decision to, quote, transfer the modern S-300 air defence system to the Syrian armed forces within 2 weeks was taken by President Vladimir Putin, and is one of the response measures. On the same day, the Kremlin accused Israeli pilots of, quote, premeditated actions over the downing of a Russian plane in Syria last week, warning it will harm relations between the two countries. Russia are basically saying Israel did this on purpose. They knew that they were going to leave this Russian plane high and dry to be a target, a mistaken target by the Syrian air defence system. Quote, according to the information, our military experts, the reason behind the downing were premeditated actions by Israeli pilots which certainly cannot but harm our relations, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told journalists. However, the Kremlin said that the installation of the S-300 was aimed at increasing safety as Russian military and, quote, not directed at any third country. Yeah, don't believe that. That is I'm sure the safety of their own planes come into it, but I'm pretty sure that, yeah, it's a retaliation to what they believe Israel have done here. Russia will also block navigation and satellite systems. This is the bit that's huge. As well as communications of warplanes operating in the eastern Mediterranean, according to the defence minister. Moscow has blamed Israel for the accidental shooting down of the aircraft with 15 people on board. The Israeli ministry, however, said that Syria's indiscriminate air defence fire was the cause of the plane crash. Al Jazeera's Rory Shalans, reporting from Moscow, said the announcement on missiles seemed to be linked to the incident with Israel. Yeah, you can bet your ass it is. It's obviously linked with that. Quote, the S-300 was a deal that had been signed with Syria in 2013, but Israel put its foot down in negotiation with Russia, and Russia decided that it was going to hold off delivering these units, he said. So Israel have screwed the pooch here. They don't want the S-300 system. The S-300 is far more advanced than what Syria has at the moment. I think the S-200 is something like 40 years old. The S-300 is far more up to date. Elias Farhat, a military analyst and retired Lebanese army general, said the Syrians have already been trained on how to operate this S-300 a few years ago. Quote, there have been leaks that Syrian officers went to Russia in order to train on the usage of the missile system, he told Al Jazeera from the Lebanese capital Beirut. And here's the bit that's really important. The S-300 is a very effective anti-aircraft missile, and Israel is aware of that, Farhat said. So that will change the situation dramatically, and there will be no more freedom of movement for the Israeli Air Force in the Syrian airspace. That's what you get, Israel. That's what you get. 200 times, over 200 times, they have been shooting targets in Syria over the last 18 months. It's come out recently. 200. And one plane, I believe, it crashed, they said. It wasn't shot down. This is a game changer. It really is. Because that S-300 system is far more advanced. There are also reports that Russia have given Syria their, is it transponder codes, that sort of thing, so they can now differentiate between friend and foe. This is huge in this conflict in Syria. It really is. It's huge. And it's about time, in my opinion. Israel are the ones that Israel are always the ones that do the preliminary strikes and clear up in the aftermath whenever there is any intervention from the UK and the US. For instance, when the UK and the US and France trilaterally bombed Syria earlier on this year, it was Israel that did the reconnaissance beforehand, and Israel that did the reconnaissance afterwards to assess the damage. You may remember that an Israeli not an Israeli, but an Israeli drone was shot down soon afterwards, soon after that attack. So I think this is great news. I really do. And tough shit, Israel. Tough. You reap what you sow. They have been crossing the line for too long now, and they continue to cross the line in the Middle East. You know, let's remember, they've got something like, some estimates come in at 120, others come in at 200 nuclear missiles in the Middle East. Nuclear. They are not part of the nuclear agreement either. Won't let anybody go in and inspect them. You know, can you imagine if that was Iran? Can you imagine? Just thought to do a video, just updating you on this, because Israel's free reign over Syria is about to come to an end by the look of it, because if these S-300s are installed over there, it's going to make their indiscriminate bombing of what they call Iranian Hezbollah targets in Syria far more difficult than it is now. The stakes have just been raised. The Western world want regime change in Syria, and they'll do anything possible to do it, and it looks like in this instance the latest cock-up of theirs is backfiring on them. And another reason why I wanted to do this video as well is just to point out this is how serious the situation is in Syria right now. There are so many different players, as I've highlighted in other videos. You've got, you know, the US, the UK, you've got Israel, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Turkey, and you've got Syria, and then you've got the Kurdish forces, and then you've got Russia and Syria as well as the allies. There are so many different moving parts and different players in this conflict. One mistake could lead to World War III. And I can't, that's not me being, you know, that's not hyperbolic. That's a fact. One mistake could lead to an all-out war. That's how dangerous it is over there at the moment, especially with Syria and Russia trying to get rid of these Al-Qaeda terrorists in Idlib, which, just to remind you, the UK and the US are protecting in that region. So there you go, that's the update. Syria are about to get some S-300s, and I, for one, I applaud this move. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and click the bell below. Independent media voices like mine are being centred across all social media platforms, so please share my videos everywhere you can to spread the word. If you can, please become a patron. The link is below as well. $1, $2, $5 a month, whatever you can afford. It really helps. I cannot do this without your support. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.